If you know me at all, or if you've followed this channel for a while, then you'll know that Animal Crossing is one of, if not my favorite game franchises. But there's another series that I love almost as much as Animal Crossing, the Magician's Quest series, which is the enchanted folk in Europe and something that roughly translates to the pointy hats in Japan. I personally think that these games are pretty underrated, and by that I mean if you were to bring them up in conversation, people would be like, I've never heard of that, or at the very least would only know about the first game. When I played them on the channel before, I heard a lot of people comparing the games to Animal Crossing, and the only real coverage that they get in the media refers to it as like Animal Crossing clones. It's true that the first game was released a few years after Wild World, and obviously there's a lot of similarities there, I mean, look at them. But I also don't think it's fair to just call it a copycat and leave it at that. It makes it sound like a cheap ripoff or something, when in reality it's actually a pretty decent game. In this video I'd like to sort of explain features that I think separate the game from Animal Crossing, and some interesting stuff it brings to the table that I think deserves more recognition. Words are not really my strong point, as you probably noticed by now, so I'll just be showing gameplay footage and explaining the features to the best of my ability, and leave it up to you to decide if it's just a ripoff. The first thing I should probably mention is that only the first game is released outside of Japan. Following that, there were 2 more DS titles and then 1 3DS game, and while I'll be talking about features from all 4 of them, the majority of this footage will be from the first game and the 4th game, since the 4th game has like the features from all the previous games. I'll start by talking about the most prominent difference between Animal Crossing and Magician's Quest, magic. There are a pretty decent amount of spells that you can learn, or just Google, like you don't have to actually learn them to use them, but most of them are pretty useless or just for fun. There are the usual spells that like don't cost anything to use, and then there are incantations which require an item but they tend to have more practical or like powerful uses. Like some of the more useful incantations that I can think of are there's like ones that allow you to get closer with characters, one that summons a toilet demon to tell you what people think about you, and then there are like ones to like change the weather and make some things easier. For normal spells, the most useful is probably the fart spell, or like flatulence, I don't know how to say it, because it gets rid of ghosts, and then there's a spell that reveals what character is like which. The funniest one I think is like a spell that allows you to transform into any of your character, and like they're surprised by it. There's some new spells in the later games. I don't like know a list of everyone, but there's like one that allows you to float around in a bubble, and then a couple more like prank spells. And that's about it for like the basics of what you can learn. I should also mention like the tools in this game, your Animal Crossing tools like your watering can and fishing rod and so on. They work as extensions of your magic wand from the very start of the game. Like in the bottom screen, top right, you're able to switch between it just like by turning your wand into them. And then there's also various broomsticks that you can purchase from the department store, like once you get a little bit into the game, like past the tutorial, and you can use them to travel much quicker, and you can go over rivers with them in any game but the first one, which is annoying, but yeah. The way that like you can learn most of these and like keep them in like your spell book is by attending classes, which there's like a school and like the center, and like they kind of explain it when you start the game. But there are like 4 teachers in the first game, as well as ones that explain like the fashion and crafting stuff in the later games. Each teacher will be in like the school building at a specific time, so there's like a schedule, and in the first game they teach you 1 class a day, but like in the later versions, I know for sure the 3DS one, you're able to take multiple classes per day and like pick which one you want. The vampire, like Mr. Vlad, he teaches you like how casting spells work. Like I think it's kind of a tutorial, I didn't like his class. He explains like magical linguistics and stuff. And there's another character named Mr. Oakley, he's like a tree dude, it's a pun. He teaches you spells which are then like saved in your menus, so he's pretty useful. And then the Scarecrow Miss Straw teaches incantations, which are saved like the same way as the spells are. There's also an extracurricular teacher who teaches during mystery time, which I'll explain later. He gives you like riddles for like a mushroom, fish, or bug, and sometimes hosts magic competitions where you need to know a certain spell or incantation. And he provides materials, and whoever like types them in quickest wins. The teacher that explains the fashion and crafting things tells you like how to enchant items as well, and like newer recipes. I think this would be a good time to mention that I did not understand a lot of the lessons and tutorials in later games because I'm illiterate, but like I still figured out most things by playing. You're able to do things like customize uniforms, customize the classroom, as well as like reschedule the classes like morning or like more like nighttime by talking to the teachers in the teachers lounge. Mystery time is when the game starts to get like a lot more interesting. You can either trigger this by opening the gateway of beginning and end with a key that you get from the headmaster principal dude, or it'll be like randomly triggered depending on what time of the month it is. Once activated for one day, the world like is crossed with the spirit world or something, and all the colors change, and you can catch weird creatures. And there's also like more rare items to collect that I would recommend getting some of because you might need them. The day after mystery time is when like the actual mystery begins. The silhouette of a character appears like when you activate mystery time, and after mystery time ends, you have to go find them in like your village area. I don't know what it's called. Talking to your classmates and stuff can like help with finding them. There are 52 mysteries in the first game, and 14 of those are the seasonal ones that are activated automatically, usually at the end of each month. I think 2 of them are like in like the beginning of a month. There's like Santa Claus, there's like Christmas time, and then just Krampus, which is like January. There's also like Nessie, a Hellhound, Literally Deaf, Subterraneans, Jack Frost, and even like the little matchstick girl, which is kind of weird. There's also like other dimensional beings. I don't know, there's a lot of interesting, strange things. Some people complain that the mysteries are too difficult, but like most of them are easy. Just talking to like the other characters in the game helps. Sometimes you might need items, and like that part's kind of annoying because if you don't know what they're talking about, then it's kind of hard. But otherwise, it's pretty easy. For completing all of the mysteries and stuff, you unlock new titles like for your little wizard card, and you also unlock like new hats and wands. But like these are unlocked in other ways. Like if you change your hair a lot, you unlock like this cute hat, or if you like make 100 ghosts fart themselves away, then you unlock a cool skeleton hat. There's also like other events like tea parties and contests that are hosted by the teachers specific weeks each year, where you can obtain special furniture. And then sometimes there's like a little island where there's like one boss battle event. There's nothing going on like at least for like another week or so when I'm recording this, so I don't have any footage, but they definitely exist. Probably my favorite thing about like the whole Magician's Quest series is just all like the really weird and funny character designs. Like some of them are adorable and then others are questionable, I guess, really weird. Like there's cell phone people. I love the Animal Crossing characters dearly, but like for the most part they're just like retextured versions of each other, the villagers. I guess they're like limited to animals. But the Magician's Quest characters have like no boundaries. Like there's animal people, like there's like orca dude in like a suit, and then there's like the cell phone people I mentioned earlier, which are really weird. There's like a TV camera, and then even the shopkeepers, like the girl who runs the clothing store is like an enchanted mannequin, and like I think they got really creative with that, and it's one of my favorite things. Like I think in number the like classmates are like smaller than the villagers, but in terms of like variety it is like much more. And I have to mention this at some point, you can date the characters. Like if you like play for a while and like get close to them, to ask you to meet at Lover's Point, and then to like pop the question without you having to do anything. Or there's also like an incantation I kind of glossed over earlier that allows you to like ask out or best friend a character for better or for worse. I think that all that really changes is like there's the gossip and like some dialogue differences, and like you go on dates instead of hanging out. But you can't marry them or anything, obviously, because the setting of the game is like a school. It's not really like a life sim or anything. But I mean, that sure is a feature. But like being able to ask characters to hang out with you is another feature that I really like, because like it expands a lot on like the friendships and interactions. Like it's kind of cute, like because they follow you around, and then you can go get noodles or like go to the juice bar together. And in the 3DS version, you can like go shopping and stuff, I think, together. But like I'm not too good at that. In like the first game at least, the dialogue, I don't know if it's like a translation issue or what, but sometimes it doesn't make any sense. For the most part, like I've been fine enough getting like stories and stuff, but like sometimes you talk to them and you're just like, what are you saying? You can also hang out with characters who don't go to your school, like when you find them running around randomly in the shopping area, like at least in the 3DS version, which is nice because none of my favorite characters live in my little town area. The soundtrack for this game leaves me kind of confused. Like on one hand, the main theme of the game, and then like some of like the songs that you can like buy or like play on instruments are really nice, and then like the shop themes I really like. Like here's like the boutique one real quick. then for the music that like they just play throughout the outdoors, they just use like classical music. And it does with the atmosphere and stuff, but I just think it's kind of like weird or like rushed that they did that when they have like perfectly like decent songs otherwise. Like you can learn songs from listening to ones that you purchased in the department store on your own radio, like listening to like radios in like other buildings like the one in the juice bar. And once you've learned a song, even if like you don't own the disc, you're able to like play it on an instrument or whistle it. And then your classmates will probably join in, which is really cute. There's also a really cute singing minigame that I think is introduced in the second game. It's like a rhythm game, because like it's pretty easy but you can mess up. There's also like, you start with 3 songs and you can definitely unlock more, but like I didn't yet, I guess because I'm not good enough at it or something, or I don't do it enough, I don't know. If I do, I'll like put on a listed video if I do figure that out. At least in the 3DS one and probably the other ones, if you sing enough and get like enough attention from like the students around you, there's like a talent agent guy who calls you over and you get to play the mini game but like at a concert thing with like an audience. I think it's just for visuals. You get to pick your voice at the start of the game, and the one I picked in my 3DS playthrough is really high pitched and I kind of regret it, but it's also kind of funny. So yeah, like you have some kind of choice in like what you sound like in that. In the like first game, like the Magician's Quest Mysterious Times, the stores include a department store for like furniture as well as like instruments, brooms. Like the second floor has a music room and then like a wallpaper flooring room. Then there's like an emporium that sells some things you need for like magic stuff, but it's also where you sell things and you can get like errands to make money. There's also the clothing store that has the really good music, in my opinion, I mentioned earlier. Where you just like buy like shoes, clothes, whatever. There's the hair salon that also sells wigs and like you can change your hairstyle. And then there's a flower and plant shop. Also, like might be worth mentioning that the flower store isn't a ripoff of Animal Crossing's Leaf, I don't think, as like he didn't exist until New Leaf. Also on like any day of the month that's like divisible by 3, the cat Civ appears in the mansion, and he's the one that you can sell furniture and clothes to and like buy rare furniture from him. There's also a juice bar where you can like buy juice, and if you go there to hang out with like another character, the Kool-Aid man tells you your compatibility or something like that. And then there's also a ramen shop that like moves around between the beach and the mushroom forest, and I think it's a really cute place to go hang out. And I think he also like tells you what people think about you. Oh, and then starting in the second game, you have the option to open up your very own store where you can sell random items as like well as craft things to sell. You can get your store rating up by having more items and like better decor and things like that. My store is in like 2 high up rating. But like I haven't spent too much time in like the second game, so this footage is gonna be the 3DS version, but the store mechanic was introduced in like the second game in the series. Personally, I just make the clothing because I get that minigame perfect, but I always mess up the cooking ones because I'm dumb. There's lots of fun options to customize the outside and inside of your store, and it's like a much easier way to make money than like ways in the first game. You have like a lot of ingredients and materials to choose from when it comes to crafting, which allows you to make lots of types of jewelry, clothing, there's like ice cream, baked goods, and food. In the 3DS game, your store is inside of a mall that you actually have pretty free customization over. Like, you can rearrange the stores to your liking, and it's a much more convenient way to shop than like earlier games because everything's in one place. Then there's also classmate stores as well, and you can get like other player stores from Spot Pass, Street Pass, or like you can just buy more play coins to fill up your mall. And they sell more furniture, clothing, like food options, which is pretty nice. Oh, and like jewelry too. In the second game, which is like when the stores are introduced, and I think the third one, your classmate stores are like by like their houses, like connected to their houses, so like you have to like run around outside to go from store to store, but like they also do sell like lots of clothing and furniture and stuff. Now it's probably a good time to mention the like headmaster's tower thing. It's located like outside like by like a bridge, but it's where you talk to him to get the key for mystery time, and it's also where your fish and bug encyclopedias are. And I think it's kind of interesting. There's not like really like a museum or anything, but like what you do is you give them to like these sentient books. The bug one hates you and the fish one's like really wholesome and nice. And basically like you trade it for them and they'll give you like things you can use to magic or just like flowers, but like it's also where you get like jewels like diamonds, like aquamarine and things that you need for some like incantations. So it's like actually kind of useful because you're switching the fish and bugs for like more valuable items that you need for like some of your spells. At the start of all of the games, you have like a character creation thing where like it asks for like your birthday, name, things like that, and it allows more diversity than the first Animal Crossing games. By that I mean you can like actually change your skin tone. This footage here is from the second game, but like this kind of customization is in all of them, and there's like more options for hair and like faces in like the later games, like the third and fourth obviously. The one thing I should mention is you don't get to change your eye color, but there are like different faces to choose from, which is nice. Starting in the first game, Magician's Quest Mysterious Times, you have choices for hats, shoes, as well as dresses, shirts, and bottoms that you can buy from the clothing store. It doesn't really compare to Animal Crossing New Leaf or New Horizons fashion lineup, but as most of these games were at the time of like Wild World and City Folk, the ability to pick shoes and pants was a step up, but I don't really know like the exact number of clothing items, so there might be less than Animal Crossing. For custom designs, you could just modify school uniforms as well as a wizard uniform and like the attic of the school. I think we're going to start to get like more interesting is like the ability to craft jewelry and clothes in later games. I think you're able to like craft clothing starting in the second game, but don't quote me on that. While you're not able to like custom design these things, there's like a bunch of different fabrics to pick from, and then like based on what pattern you're using, including like the pants, short sleeve shirts, skirts, dresses, coats, long sleeve shirts and stuff like that, it's like a completely different item. For jewelry, you're able to like shape gems differently, and you can also like get different change and like different like materials for like the crowns and like necklaces you can make. And you can also enchant these items in order to gain attention of people you walk by and like make your fashion rating or something go up. So while the second game introduced like the store mechanics and things like that, starting in the third game there's like lots of different fashion mechanics, like fashion shows, and I think like people judge your style. In the second game they introduced the castle in the top right of the map, which I don't think I mentioned, but it's just where you go to get evaluated and stuff, and they send you there automatically sometimes. So it like tells you how your store is doing and how you're doing in like school and stuff. But there's a princess there who tells you how fashionable you are or something like that. But here's like the building, the event hall, and this is where like the runway shows are. I think like the stuff that goes on in here shows up in the magazine that you can open in the menu. It just shows off like the trending looks and stuff like that. You can save and create up to 12 different outfits in like a menu access for your inventory, and it also like stores the clothes in there and stuff like that, which is really convenient. But when you're creating the outfit in that menu, it displays like what kind of style that outfit has, like depending what items you put together. So you can have like cute, and you can have like extra cute, or you can have like cute and cool like put together and stuff like that. But if like you don't do it correctly, it just tells you it's bad, which is kind of funny. I don't know if it like does anything negative, unless like this doesn't let you get into the fashion shows or something. I'm not really sure exactly what it does, but I think it's kind of an interesting mechanic. The There's some other features that I didn't go over because I didn't think they were too important, like the fishing, bug catching, y'all know that already. And then there's some things that I probably just didn't understand because of that really cool language barrier. But now I'm gonna acknowledge some really clear imperfections and things that like you might struggle with if you played this game. So, in the first game, Magician's Quest Mysterious Times, like Enchanted Folk and School of Wizardry, things do not stack, which is annoying. So, like, if you don't play for a while, your house fills with mushrooms instead of, like, how you get cockroaches in Animal Crossing games, and you can't stack them in the first game. So, like, in the later ones, you can stack items, and that helps so much, but it's so annoying, like, trying to clean out your house and stuff if you haven't played for a while. And, yeah, like, you don't have the outfit storage in the first game, so, like, the 3DS one, I never ran out of storage or anything, because you can save your 12 outfits and, like, all those items in there. But the first game, you don't have that. So, like, if you use your storage as, like, a closet and you buy a lot of outfits, you'll probably run out of storage. And this can kind of be solved by making extra characters, as you can edit their like dorm rooms and store things in there. So you can have 4 rooms, but it's still annoying. But that's another thing to keep in mind is that you only get up to like those 4 dorm rooms, and then I guess your store too, which you can customize like the outside and like the signs and stuff, and like the windows in your store, which is pretty nice. But if you're like into like having your own house, that's not gonna happen in this. You only get that one or like the other characters' dorm rooms. I think it's like there's still enough you can do. It's like a pretty spacious room, but it's still kind of annoying that that's all you get. There's significantly less customization and like randomization of your town or like map than there is in the Animal Crossing games. Like the location of things is not really random, like your store and like your haunted house and your caves and your mushroom forest and like your beach and stuff, those are always going to be in the same place. You can plant and like get like rare flowers like to add your own flair and like put them wherever, and you can like drop items on the ground outside, but you can't like place furniture or anything. Like you can customize the layout of like your mall in the 3DS version by talking to this ink pen guy. Like you can change where all the stores are, but that's like about all you can do there. Some people find the mysteries too difficult, but I mentioned earlier you can just talk to like your classmate characters and they'll give you hints and stuff. Like I guess you need items for some of them, I think I said that, so I guess just like keep stocked on everything, but you don't need it for all of the mysteries, and if you fail it, it'll just like go on to the next one in a week. It's also kind of annoying to earn money in the first game. I can recommend you just turn like your fish and bugs that you catch into like more valuable items and selling those, or like you can turn them like bugs and fish into like rare gems if like they're good. Something else I should mention is like if you only speak English, there are no official English translations for any of the later games. They're only available in Japanese. There are, however, like people like fans working on translating the games like as of pretty recently. I'll be putting like links to like sources and stuff in like the description, but I don't think there are any complete yet. At least I didn't find any, as it's like a really difficult task and there's not too many people working on it. I think another thing to mention is like that the dialogue can get kind of repetitive. I don't know how like I don't know what they did, is sometimes it's like kind of like random, it doesn't make sense, but like sometimes they'll like repeat phrases and things, but they do that in like Animal Crossing too. They run out of things to say because I mean there's only so much they can do. There's like a little gossip mechanic, like they'll tell you like what's going on with like their friends and stuff, and like sometimes they'll like pass you notes or like send you letters, which I think is cute, but there's still like only so much that they can say. Do I think that the series is better than Animal Crossing? It's hard to say. I definitely put a lot more time into the Animal Crossing games, but that's also due to me being able to like read all of those games. I think I would say that Magician's Quest definitely wins like in terms of content against the earlier Animal Crossing games. Like Magician's Quest versus Animal Crossing Wild World, I would definitely check like Magician's Quest. For me, Animal Crossing has that big nostalgia factor though that like other games can never compete with. Overall, I just think that the Magician's Quest series like deserves a lot more credit. Most people that cover them only barely play the first game and compare it to like the newer Animal Crossing games when they should probably be looking at Wild World if they're gonna compare it to anything. If you like Animal Crossing or goofy magic and funny character designs, I think it's definitely worth trying out this game. It's a bit hard to get a hold of now, but if you ever get the chance to play Magician's Quest, I think it's definitely worth your time. I I feel kind of weird asking this, but like if you like this video and you know someone else that would, send it to them or something if you think it's interesting. If you didn't, sorry about that. I'm not really used to this style of video, so it took me a while to make, even though it's pretty mediocre. There's a lot more underrated series and stuff that I'd like to cover that aren't really animal simulation games. And if you have any that you'd like to recommend, you can join the Discord here or something if you want to recommend any. Have a nice day. Bye.